Hello everyone and welcome back to another video here on my YouTube channel. Now today's video, I'm here to start a brand new series, a series called The Breakdown. And what I will be doing is every week I will be breaking down Rob Edwards' interviews throughout the season. Whether that's pre-match, after, I try and get a video out every single week. And I want to just break down what he says in his interviews, talk about a few points which he will mention in his interviews, and just expand on them and give you guys my overall thoughts on it. As you can tell, it's very hard to think of ideas at the moment, but I feel like adding this new series throughout this new upcoming season, it will add more content to the channel and also another video for you guys to see on a weekly basis. Now the interview which I am breaking down today is the interview which Rob Edwards did with the BBC the other night. And basically fans got to ask him questions, the BBC journalists got to ask him questions as well. And I much prefer these interviews. Now the club do their own interviews after games. I feel like it's too biased, it's too positive for my liking. I do like when managers get challenged a little bit, and that's where the BBC and the local journalists come in, and that's where they do the challenging. So I'm going to go through all the talking points which he mentions throughout the interview, and yeah, just give you guys my overall thoughts. So the first thing which I've noticed in the interview was he's added a lot of pressure to himself and to the team. He's demanding that he wants promotion back to the Premier League, and when you do that, you're adding so much pressure, because if we don't achieve that, we're going to be a little bit stupid, or if things are not going our way, a lot of people are going to look at us and go, well, you're the ones who wanted promotion and all this. And we are adding a lot of pressure to ourselves, and I understand it, and as a team that's been relegated recently from the Premier League, we should be, that's the expectation, in and around those, promotion places. So look, if he wants to add the pressure and he thinks this is a good thing to do, then by all means do it. The next up, the improvements on what he wants on this upcoming season. He mentions about he wants to find the perfect balance between scoring goals and also defending really well. Now last season we definitely didn't have the balance, so I can definitely understand why he's saying this, because last year we scored loads of goals, however we did concede loads. And he did mention that last season, between December and to February, that was his Luton team. That was the team he loved. And I agree with him on that. Between December all the way to February, we were a different team. That was because majority of the players we had were fit. We were winning games of football. We kept clean sheets, although it was only 2. But we were scoring goals for fun a little bit. And we were getting points at home and also away from home. And if we kept that going for another month or 2, I'm pretty sure we would have climbed out of those relegation places and been ahead of Nottingham Forest. I'm pretty sure of that. He also mentions about the depth within the group. Now currently there's a lot of question marks over the depth in terms of recruitment, and I will address recruitment because he does talk about it in the interview, but he has high hopes for our youngsters, and I do have a feeling our youngsters are going to get opportunities this year, which is very good. Like the likes of Joe Johnson, Zach Nelson, there could be other players as well we're not too sure about yet, but definitely those 2 players in particular I feel like are going to get opportunities this season. Joe probably more than anyone, because we've currently got injuries in defence, so it's perfect for Joe to come in. But the fact that he's willing to give our youngsters opportunities is something which we haven't seen in a while. Now, this is what he does address in terms of recruitment. He confirms that basically it's been more of a challenge this year in terms of recruitment. Teams which we've been talking to in terms of negotiating are demanding more money. And what I get from the interview is we don't want to be bullied in negotiations. We don't want to be bullied in the amount of money which we should be paying for a player. We don't want to be paying over the odds. Now I completely understand that. I wouldn't want the club to do that. I don't want the club spending an extra 5 million on a player, especially if he isn't worth it. And that's what it seems like that's happening. We're getting bullied in terms of from other clubs. Other clubs are like, we know how much you've got, you give us it. And they're not really willing to give us their players because they want more money. So he definitely said it's more of a challenge in terms of recruitment. But we'll go back onto recruitment, because he does move on to say that when it comes to his relationship with his players, he speaks to the leaders of the groups, and he talks to them on a regular basis in terms of what the club's doing, and he says everyone is all happy, which is really good. So although the fans may be a little bit uneasy on the lack of recruitment, the players are definitely not. But then again, would a manager say that the players are unhappy? I don't think so. So kind of like a expected answer there. He has said the club have tried for players, as I've already mentioned before. He does say it is more of a challenge this year. He says they only need a few, and I think the area which they're looking at is definitely centre midfield, and also he's only looking to bring in 2 to 3 players. I'm not expecting loads of signings. I wasn't expecting loads of signings. However, I was expecting areas in the team that needed to be addressed, and I feel like at the moment, as I'm recording this video, those problems have not been addressed. One problem in particular is the defence. I felt like we did need to bring in a defender. Talking about a defender, Amari Bell is back in training, which is good news. What was mentioned in this interview was the injury situation from last year. Now, we have hired a new head of medical, if you guys have seen online, which is good news. I feel like we do need to improve, and that is an area which we have done. We've invested more in the pitch and also in staff. So we may have not have seen that until recently, but in the recent announcement we have invested more on training facilities and also in the staff department as well. I feel like we do need to, as a club that is trying to improve all the time, we should be improving elsewhere. And Edwards mentioned when he wants things improved, he speaks to Gary Sweet and he explains why it needs to improve to help the club grow. So look, good communications in all departments there. Now, last season a question was mentioned about the defensive injuries in terms of the January recruitment. Why didn't we not bring in more players? Now, I didn't like the answer. This is one answer which I didn't like from Edwards, and that was he kind of dismissed it, really. He said hindsight is a wonderful thing about the amount of injuries we had in defence. Now, yeah, okay, hindsight is a wonderful thing, but the evidence was there before January about defenders getting injured. Every defender, I think apart from Alfie and Menji, got injured before January. So for me, that is a clear example on you need to sign someone as either a short-term replacement or you bring someone in permanently who could have featured in this season. Now, he did say the club did try for more players in January, but obviously the deals didn't go through. But us dismissing and not bringing in someone had an impact on us getting relegated, and it contributed massively. Okay, yeah, defensively we weren't good anyway, but that also contributed massively. Adding another body in makes a massive difference. On the topic of the summer transfer window, he mentions about Taylor and McAtee that the club need to do what's right for them, and what that basically tells me is that one of them is going to go permanently to play regular football, which I think is McAtee, and rumours have it that he is having a medical with, I think it's with Bolton at the moment, and then Joe Taylor is to go out on loan because he isn't going to get first team football here at Luton this season. Now, you've got to remember, guys, these youngsters, they do want to play regularly. They want to play every single week. We can't promise that. There's no way Joe Taylor is getting ahead of Morris and Adebayo. It's not happening. He's going to be third choice. Strikers don't want to be third choice. You don't grow up being a professional footballer wanting to be the third choice striker. You just don't. You want to go out and you want to play regular football. So Joe Taylor, I feel like, is going to probably go out on loan. By the sounds of things, he is going to go out on loan. Now, back to the defence. I know this is in a weird order. I'm sorry. I was just going by how he did the questions. Going forward, I will improve this. But back to the defence with the injuries. He also mentions about the speed of the game, and now he mentioned in both actual press conferences, actually. He said in the interview last night with the BBC, and he also mentioned in the press conference for the Burnley game, the club doctors all spoke to each other, and he said the impact of the 5 sub rule has made players get injured more frequently. So what he means by that is, so I compare it into Luton terms. So if Reece Burke is playing in a 90-minute game and he's been up against Ogbeni, someone who's quick and powerful, for 70 minutes, and then Ogbeni comes off and we replace Ogbeni with Chong, and now Reece Burke has got to deal with Chong, it causes a lot of demand for defenders because they're having to keep that intensity for 100% of the game, whereas attackers don't have to do that. And that, I feel like, is a really good point, because with the 5 sub rule, you can bring on more attackers, whereas before in the 3 sub rule, yeah, you could bring on attackers, but not as much in the 5 sub rule, if that makes sense. The 5 subs allows more personnel changes, which could then impact a game massively. So yeah, I definitely understand where he's coming from with that. And he also mentions about how we had our training facilities were impacted last year in terms of by weather, and that's something which we've improved at as well. We've improved the training pitches. I think we've built a 4G or 5G like grass, so it can be played in all weather, 11-a-side as well, so it helps the team in training. So if anything happens in terms of weather, because you can't trust the weather nowadays, that is something which we can obviously be adaptable with. What he wants is as well, and regards to back to the defenders as well, he says he wants, where am I at? I'm lost track. Okay, ignore what I've just said there. As you can see, I have not rehearsed this very well. But anyway, that's what he says about the defenders, and that's what he says about the improvements off the field. Now, what he wants this season, he wants to be more clinical, he wants to be a very aggressive press, and essentially he wants players to do kind of 2 jobs. Be able to be aggressive in the press, but then really clinical on the ball. That's what he wants, and he currently says that we're not there yet. And I don't think we are. I think it's going to take at least 5 to 10 games for us to at least get to the level where he wants to get to. He also said as well, he actually doesn't care if we win 4-2 over a 2-0. He'd rather be entertaining, score lots of goals, which I understand. However, teams that get promoted are built on really good defences. Like the teams that got promoted to the Premier League, apart from Southampton had a low clean sheets compared to the other 2 teams, but Ipswich and Leicester and Leeds all were very good defensively. They were one of the best in the division. So I do think we need to be good defensively, and like he said earlier in the video, like I said earlier in the video, and like what Edward said in the interview, he needs the balance to be really, really good. Get the balance right between goals and defence. He mentions about how Alfie and Elijah have developed the most under him, and I can kind of agree with that. I think Chong as well has improved massively under Edwards, but Elijah definitely, compared to the start of the Premier League season to the end, massive improvements. The same with Alfie as well. I always felt Alfie could play in the Premier League. We just needed to add consistency to his game, which we've now done. And then the final thing he mentions in the interview is centre midfield. We are looking for a centre mid. And like I already said, we want 2 to 3 players at least coming in this summer transfer window. But yeah, those are my talking points from the Edwards interview. It was a really good interview. It was open, it was honest. I really like that. Like I say, I agree with some things he mentions in that interview. However, there are some things which I don't agree with, i.e. in terms of the defensive side of things. I do think you need to be a little bit more solid, and also what happened in January in the Premier League. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section of the video. Subscribe if you are new. Hopefully you like the new series idea, and yeah, onwards and upwards. My next video will be my expectations on this upcoming championship season.